Good evening, welcome to this meeting of the Orange County School Board. At this time, we'll call the meeting to order, and let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Ms. Pryor. Could we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Mrs. Anderson. Here. Mrs. Dawson. Here. Mrs. Harrington. Here. Mrs. Quinter. Mrs. Quinter.
I thought we had to read me in.
You do, but I was just gonna let you check in so we knew you were working.
Apologies, President.
Mr. Rickett.
Yes.
Chairman Pro Tem Bray, the clerk certifies the presence of the quorum.
All right, and entertain a motion. We have a board member attending virtually, so entertain a motion for Ms. Winter to participate virtually this evening.
Make a motion to do such. As authorized by section 2.23708.3 of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act and the School Board Policy BED, I move that Ms. Quintern be permitted to participate in this meeting electronically from home. And the minutes show her request was based on a temporary medical condition that prevented her attendance in person.
A motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. At this time, we will begin reorganization. And so at this time, I would like to accept names for nomination of Chair of the Orange County School Board for 2024.
I'd like
Dr.
to.
Morgan, it's my pleasure to nominate Ms. Melissa Anderson for chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Quinter. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, is there a motion that the nomination for chairman be closed?
I'll make a motion to close the nomination process.
May I have a second?
Second.
Those in favor of closing the nominations, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. So, declare the outcome. So our nominations are closed. And so may I have a motion to elect Mrs. Anderson as Chair of the Orange County School Board for 2024?
I'll make a motion to elect Melissa Anderson as Orange County School Board Chair for 2024.
Thank you, Ms. Dawson. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We'll now have a roll call vote. Ms. Byram, could we have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Anderson.
Aye.
Mrs. Dawson.
Aye.
Mrs. Harrington.
Aye.
Mrs. Quinter.
Aye.
Mr. Rickett.
Aye.
The motion carries.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct honor to welcome our new Chair of the Orange County School Board for 2024, Mrs. Melissa Anderson. That's it, that's correct. Congratulations, Mrs. Anderson. Thank you very much. I turn the meeting to you.
Thank you, Dr. Hornick. So, move on to nominations for Vice Chair of the Orange County School Board in 2024. Are there any nominations?
Madam Chair, I'd like to nominate Jack Rickett for the Vice Chairman position.
Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, is there a motion that the nominations for Vice Chair be closed?
Apologies, Ms. Anderson, I was going to nominate Darlene Dawson.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there any other nominations? Yes, there are none. So we have two members on the table for vice chair. We do one at a time.
Which is close the nomination,
Okay.
and then I will do a roll call vote, and you'll just state who you vote for.
Oh. May I have a motion to close the nominations with the two, personnel, Mr. Jack Rickett and Ms. Darlene Dawson as a nomination for vice chair?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor for closing the nominations, please signify aye.
Aye.
Aye. So, we have two nominations, and may I have a motion to elect, Mr. Jack Rickett as vice chair?
I make the motion to elect Jack Rickett as vice chair.
All those in favor for Jack Rickett as vice chair, by saying aye.
Aye.
I'll need a second.
Oh, I'm sorry, I need a, second motion, please.
I'll second.
Sorry,
Thank you,
bear
that would
with
be
me.
weird.
Yes.
Yes.
All those in favor by saying aye.
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 Do I have a motion to elect Darlene Dawson as vice chairman?
So moved. I move to elect Darlene Dawson as vice chair.
Do I have a second? Second. So both motions are on the table.
Yes, I'll do the roll call vote, and we'll just say who you are voting for, and then we'll just tally it. Mrs. Anderson,
Aye for Darlene Dawson.
Mrs. Dawson,
Aye for myself. Feels weird, but there it is.
Mrs. Harrington,
Aye for Jack Rickett.
Mrs. Quinter,
Aye for Darlene Dawson.
Mr. Rickett,
For myself.
and with a vote of 3-2, Ms. Dawson is elected as vice chair.
The chairman requests so we just go on to the next one? Okay, so the chairman requests nominations for clerk of the Orange County School Board for 2024. Dr. Horn, do you have any recommendations?
Yes, ma'am, recommend continuation of Ms. Byram as board clerk and Mrs. Yvonne Dawson as deputy clerk.
May I have a motion to elect Ms. Laura Byram and Ms. Yvonne Dawson, Ms. Laura Byram for clerk and Ms. Yvonne Dawson for, deputy clerk, thank you.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor by saying aye,
Aye.
and those opposed? That completes both of those, so now we move on to provisions for annual notifications. So, each board member was provided a copy of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, Virginia Public Records Act, and the Virginia Conflict of Interest Act. And there's no,
Madam Chair, I believe we skipped over the appointment of representatives.
oh. I am so sorry.
Also, approval of the board meeting schedule is under reorganization.
Yeah, that's just a technicality, whether you want to keep it on the first and last Monday.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Deep breath.
Our current schedule is the first and last Monday of each month, beginning at 7 p.m. changes to the schedule that you'd like to entertain? There are none. May I have a motion to accept the 2024 school board meeting schedule?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. All right, appointment of representatives, the following representatives, we have the voting delegate and alternate to the Virginia School Board Association General Assembly. Currently, Ms. Quintern is on that, committee. Is there a nomination for the, second spot for that, committee?
Madam Chair, if you would entertain a motion, I would move to replace the VSBA Delegate Assembly with a Legislative School Board Committee. And if there's a second, I'd be happy to explain further.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Quintern?
So for discussion, my idea is with this legislative committee,
Hold on one second. Chelsea, can you wait 1 second? Sherry, say it
I'm just asking point of order, is that something that we are able to do at this point based on the agenda? Or is that something we need to discuss as moving to subsequent meeting?
my opinion would be this would be a subsidiary motion, as we would move to have members placed on a committee. But I think that would be a good question for Byron.
Yes, I agree with Ms. Quintern that we could, address that now if you wanted to, or talk about it and then just, act on it later.
Proceed, Ms. Quintern.
Thank you. So as far as replacing it, I think that we should get rid of the middleman, the go-between between Orange County and Richmond. I think it's important for us to have a seat at the table and an equal voice. And I think that we can achieve that. And ultimately, my goal would be to extend it out to other school districts that are nearby, Spotsylvania, Madison, Green, etc. But initially, I did reach out to Nick Freitas, Phil Scott, and Bryce Reeves, and the three of them said that they would be interested in helping us with this committee. And I think it would help us greatly to determine what our needs are, not what the state's general needs are. So that's my idea as to why we want to form this committee.
Is there any other discussion?
So all we're doing is creating another person for another committee?
So the original was to appoint a secondary or an alternative to the voting delegate and alternate to the Virginia School Board Association General Assembly.
Correct.
So that is the original motion. Chelsea's motion is to rename the committee, where we focus on, the committee would meet then with, our legislators in person versus going through Virginia School Board Association.
Right. So don't we pay for the VSBA, correct?
Yes, sir, and they do ask that we appoint someone to attend the General Assembly, meeting at their annual conference.
Right.
So even if we did a separate committee, we would still be asked to appoint this unless we didn't want representation.
So Chelsea, you just don't wanna be on that committee anymore, correct? Is that what you're?
No, so the committee itself, or the annual meeting is at the end of the year, or towards the end of the year. And, I'm fine with remaining on the committee, or being a delegate if we, choose to keep that committee. However, essentially, I don't want to be tied to VSBA, just like we left the National School Board Association as Virginia did. The whole Virginia School Board Association application left for national. Ultimately, I think that it would be better for us as a school board to withdraw and use those funds towards students and staff directly versus a association that it just gets us our bare minimum costs covered. Any additional training is an additional fee on top of what we pay. So I think that we could better use those funds elsewhere. I know that it's kind of going into a different direction, but essentially that's why I would want to replace the delegate assembly with the legislative school board committee. And should we choose to stay with the VSBA, those two legislative representatives from the board, I assume would be able to be the representatives on the delegate assembly.
May I ask a question? When does our membership in VSBA expire for this current year?
June 30th.
So our dues are paid through June currently.
Yes, ma'am.
So can we agree to stay with VSBA and appoint a delegate through June? And in addition to that, have those people become legislative delegates as well?
Well, that's where I was getting a little confused. So we went from nominating a delegate to trying to get rid of the VSBA. So that seemed like a kind of a pretty big jump. So, Ms. Quintern, if you don't want to be a delegate for the VSBA because you don't believe in them, that's absolutely fine. I would be more than happy to be the delegate, and we create the new, I don't know did you have a name?
Well, no, that's not essentially what I was saying. I was just saying delegates are not going to have any role until the end of the year. And so essentially that committee is null and void until we get to that point anyways. So the delegates do not do anything until that meeting. They would get the updated legislative changes that they want to make, and then they would go down at the annual meeting and vote on whether or not they want to make those changes as a representative of the board.
Yes. Ms. Harrington?
Thank you. I would just like to state that Chelsea also reached out to me and we were able to have a conversation relative to the interest of getting out of the Virginia School Board Association completely. I believe that, in my opinion, I would like to stay within that organization. I think that it is a very critical time as a new board member to have that support, the understanding of policy, the understanding of governance, the advocacy opportunity. However, what I would say is that we also spoke about the possibility of developing an ad hoc committee where she or I or other members who are voted into that responsibility will do some research over the next few months to bring back to the full board what services are actually being provided by the Virginia School Boards Association, what other organizations are out there that provide the same level or or multiple options to maintain policy, board docs, different things that we currently use from an administrative standpoint, and then bring that information and or presentation back to the full board before our VSBA contract does expire in June, so we can have more information to make a fully educated, informed decision based on what is in the best interest of our students and of the division.
Madam Chair, if I could comment as well, it seems to me that the impression is that VSBA is the only school board association available to us, and that's really not true. There are many others. Board Docs itself can be a standalone contract. We don't have to get that only through VSBA. So I think what Ms. Harrington suggests is wise, that we look into other options over these next 6 months, and then in June, make a decision. But in the meanwhile, I guess tonight we need to appoint someone as a delegate. And then I don't know if it's appropriate to just add to that a legislative delegation as well, because I think that's actually more important, because we can talk to them tonight and not wait for the SBA conference in November.
And to be clear, my motion was not to leave the Virginia School Board Association. The motion is just to replace that committee, since we're not using it until after June anyways. Replace that committee with the Legislative School Board Committee. and then if we need to come back to appoint the delegates. So with that, I would like to call the question on the original motion.
Could we restate the motion, please? I don't remember what it was.
Move to replace the Virginia School Board Association Delegate Assembly with a Legislative School Board Committee.
Do I have a second?
It was already seconded by Ms. Dawson for discussion.
All those in favor? By
Aye.
saying aye?
Aye.
And so with that, being said, Madam Chair, I would like to appoint, Sandy Harrington and myself as, the two school board representatives. I'm not sure if anybody else has additional interest, and if so, we can vote on the numbers.
Is there any other, nominations for, the new committee? May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor by, placing Chelsea Quintern and Sandy Harrington on the new committee? Chelsea, may you repeat the actual name of the committee again, please?
Legislative School Board Committee.
Aye.
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 Okay, moving on.
Ms. Anderson, just to be clear, so that I know, so that the members of the representatives on this committee are also going to technically be the delegate and alternate delegate.
Yes, I believe.
At this time,
At this
until-
time, until we decide, once we get all the information back. Yes.
Okay.
Representative for the Blue Ridge Virtual, Governor's School Board. I am currently a member, of the previous, board member was very, very good at representing the Blue Ridge, Virtual Governor's School, giving us a lot of feedback. So I would, I would ask for a motion to nominate some, to fill the vacant spot on the Blue Ridge Virtual Governor's School Board.
Madam Chair, just to let you know, I would be very interested in filling that spot. I did speak to Mr. Hopkins, and I know that it was something very close to his heart, and would love to have that opportunity. So if anyone is interested or wants to nominate me, I would definitely appreciate it.
So make the motion to nominate Ms. Anderson and Ms. Harrington to the Blue Ridge Governor's School Board.
I would say that I'm probably not the best fit for that committee, so is there somebody else that you would like to replace me? No, I'm
I thought
currently
you
on it.
said, no, I thought you said that you enjoyed it.
No,
You were talking about it before.
Mr. Hopkins
Yes.
was very adamant about it and did a very good job. So I'm okay with removing myself and replacing me with somebody else. So is there any other nominations for that, for my position?
Madam Chair, I'd be willing to serve on that committee if it's agreeable.
I would second that.
Okay, would you like to make that motion?
Yeah, let me change my motion, to,
We have Ms. Harrington as primary and Ms. Dawson as alternate, is that what?
yes, sir. How did you know what I wanted to say?
I'll second that motion.
Following along, reading the tea leaves.
All those in favor, of placing, Sandy Harrington and Darlene Dawson as our representatives for Blue Ridge Virtual Governor's School Board?
Aye.
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 Next one, representative for the Head Start Policy Council. Currently Chelsea is on that committee. Chelsea, would you like to stay on that committee, or would you like to appoint somebody else there?
I enjoyed it, and I let, the Head Start Policy Council know that I would be interested in, fulfilling that role again, and unless there is another person who, wanted to be on that committee, I'm happy to stay. and represent the school board there.
May I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that Chelsea Quintern be our Head Start Policy Council representative.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The next, committee, is the Orange County Education Foundation Board Liaison. Do I have any nominations or anyone willing to take on that position?
I would.
Okay, I would nominate Jeff.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor by, placing, Mr. Jack Riggett on the Orange County Education Foundation Board Liaison?
Aye.
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 Excuse me. Next, we have the Orange County Board of Supervisors Financial Committee. I would like to actually, be on that committee. I know, our budget is very important to us, and I feel that I've had a lot of, experience from prior 2 years of, trying to understand and going through finances and things like that. So, I would ask for a nomination for me to be placed on that.
Melissa, I would nominate you for that position. I always also say that, based on my experience, and expertise in finance, I would also be willing to if someone would like to nominate me, so. Thank you.
Would like to nominate Ms. Harrington as well.
Okay. Is there any other nominations? Hearing none, may I have a motion to place?
I move to, place Melissa Anderson and Sandy Harrington as the two representatives for the Orange County Board of Supervisors Financial Committee.
Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're almost done, I promise. The representative for the Piedmont Regional Education Program Board.
I would nominate Darlene Dawson for that position.
I do have a question. What is the role and duties of that position?
So you want to talk a little bit about prep?
Thank you. Because neither Chelsea nor I were on that committee, so we really don't understand it as much.
No problem, we will. Susan can give you an update. We use it in a particularly limited capacity.
We do. The Piedmont Regional Education Program Board is a board of, I believe it's 10 or 11 school divisions where we work together to provide services for low incident populations of students with disabilities. So there's specific services that have a very specialized nature to them. We actually currently only use the prep board for assistive technology consultation. In the past, we have used them for other services, but that's currently the only service. The board meets, I'd say approximately 7 times maybe throughout the school year. And it is during the day at the Albemarle County Building in Charlottesville.
Thank you. Is there a second for nominating Ms. Dawson for the Piedmont Regional Education Program Board?
Miss, I also think for that program and the meeting schedule, I do not believe we need an alternate. I think if we have one board member and if there's an issue that can't attend, it does not pose a huge significant barrier to prep continuing to operate. So I do not believe we have to have an alternate. I think one board member is good. Yes, ma'am.
Another piece to our membership is also being able to apply for reimbursement funds from the state. So it is critical for that piece, but I don't know that we would need an alternate.
I agree.
I second.
All those in favor for Ms. Darlene Dawson for the Piedmont Regional Education Program Board?
Aye.
Aye.
The last one on the list is the Board of Supervisors School Board CIP Committee. I am currently on that committee. I was actually so we, appointed me as well. I would be interested in staying on that committee, but I would like to, nominate, Mr. Jack Rickett to be, one of the other, members of that committee.
I'll move to second that.
And I would like to nominate, Chairman Anderson.
All those in favor for the, Board of Supervisors, School Board CIP Committee, for myself and Mr. Jack Rickett?
Aye.
Aye.
Ms. Anderson, there is one more, that we did, this was at the very end, in the last meeting in early December. The new lab school in our collaboration, with Mary Washington, the Academy of Technology and Innovation, and at that time, we put, Ms. Quintern, with knowing at that point there were only 2 continuing board members. That is a brand-new board that will be meeting, that will be made up of a board member from Stafford, King George, Caroline, the city of Fredericksburg, and Orange. And so Mrs. Quintern at the time was nominated to serve on the Academy of Technology and Innovation. And that was one we accidentally, it was so new, we didn't carry it. But just wanted to throw that out, if you wanted to do a change, or if you wanted to see it through, we can make a change at any point, as long as we're represented. But I did want to just bring that one forward.
Is there,
Thank you, Dr. Warren.
Yes,
I was,
ma'am.
gonna ask about that. I do still have interest in that. I know we don't know much about the committee yet, but especially being up here, close
Yeah.
proximity to Mary Washington.
Right.
I have an interest in being a representative.
Then we don't have, then, yeah, there's nothing that we have to change then, so that, okay. Thank you.
I know we had, and I'm not sure where it was listed, but we had a CTE committee, specifically. Was that,
So, is that,
it wasn't capital improvement, it was more of like the presentations of the programs where they would meet with, stakeholders in the community. I know I made it to a couple of those, I know Sherry was at a few of them as well.
yes. Yeah, so, okay, so Renee, I believe we're talking about your committee, right? This is the Business and CTE Advisory Committee, and I know that you invite board members to attend, so if we have an idea of which 2 to send the invite to, we will make sure to send that, so yeah, that's the advisory committee, yes ma'am,
Okay.
yes.
So could we make that a part of what we're doing in the CIP process, where if you could make sure that Melissa and I get invited, that would be wonderful. Thank you so much.
Is there any other, committees or anything else that we would like to, discuss or go over any further?
The only thing, it's kind of like a point of information, but if we could get all of the committee meetings listed on our board calendar, so that way we kind of have an idea, especially moving forward, new board members can see kind of where the meetings are at, the times and the dates that they are being held.
I think that would be helpful as well, especially knowing, kind of the board members that are on the committee, but also, doing their, not necessarily presentation, but their, report back from those committees as well.
No problem.
Certainly make that change to the calendars.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to C, provisions of annual notifications. I've kind of already read this. All board members have been provided with this information. And we can go on to D, correct? There's nothing there that we need to.
Yes ma'am, that's correct.
So the location of the Orange County School Board Policy Manuals, as outlined in the School Board Policy BF Board Policy Manual, a current copy of division policies will be posted on the division's website. The school board also ensures that printed copies of the policies are available if needed to citizens using
Chair, if I could just ask a question, just point of interest for me. When I read the policy referenced here, the VF policy, it says that we have every policy is reviewed every 5 years, and I'm just curious about that process. Does that mean, Mrs. Byer, we have like a rolling schedule of certain ones each year? Or
I do have a spreadsheet where I try to keep track of when they are reviewed, and that's part of a service that the BSBA handles for us. They, their attorneys review the policies, make changes based on the General Assembly, and recommend changes to us. And they ensure that we keep in line. Every time they send us a policy to change, the appropriate administrator also reviews it to make sure that we want to make that change, or we have made that change if it's required.
And even if we don't make the change, we still acknowledge that it's been reviewed and updated as of that particular date.
Is that true of legislative changes too?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Was there anything else on the list? So letter E, school board code of conduct. I did, have a recommendation as far as the code of conduct. Number 11. So number 11, change the wording, I will be informed about current educational issues through individual study and participation in appropriate programs such as those offered by the state of Virginia and other school board associations.
Change my state to the state of Virginia.
I would support that because we are not part of the National School Board Association, so it doesn't really make sense to say that we are going to, participate in their programs.
Ms. Byron, we can just make that change, right? We don't need to do anything, right?
You can, well, we'll vote to approve the code of conduct, but yes, we can.
With the changes that she just described. Would like to make a motion to approve the changes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And certification of, rules of order. May I have a motion, to approve the use of the most recent edition of Robert Rules of Orders. Most current edition is Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised 12th edition.
Move to approve.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The authorization of signature and absence of the division superintendent, may I have a motion, to approve, Dr. Hornick's recommendation of Mr. Gary Honecker, Chief Operating Officer, and Mrs. Susan Ayler, Executive Director of Special Education and Student Services.
Move to
So
approve.
moved through January 31st, 2025.
All of, may I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And may I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on, consent agenda, Dr. Hornick?
Yes, ma'am, this will.
Actually, one quick point, if you don't mind. Where's Justin? So Justin, just want to recognize you this morning and your team and the coordination that you guys had with what could have been a very troubling situation. Outstanding job and way to coordinate with your resources, the people within the school system, and the county resources. So I just want to make sure that everyone's aware of, that was a tough one. Thank you very much. Go ahead.
I would like to recognize Mr. Finger and Ms. Albrecht. You all were first on scene this morning, and you know, you all create a sense of calm for the children. You have the relationships with them, and it was a difficult situation, but we're very, very fortunate, and I appreciate your all's leadership and willingness just to drop everything.
And I thank you both as well. Staying calm is the biggest thing, especially for young people. Thank you.
And there are many, many others involved. Ms. Anderson actually ran our alternate site for parent. There was a lot of moving pieces, so thank you, everybody.
And if we could just clarify, because I see some whispers, what happened? Some people don't
There
know
was
what we're talking about, so.
There was a motor vehicle accident involving one of our school buses this morning. A pickup truck crossed the center line and struck one of our buses head on. We're very fortunate that there were some bumps and bruises, but neither driver was injured, so.
Thank you.
And if I could, just this last weekend, Saturday, I was able to hear a report from Brian Nichols, the Board of Supervisor for District 5, who stated that they had been working with the Highway Patrol relative to fixing some of those S-curves over there on Flat Run, and the Highway Patrol had declined to do so. And so it was with some of the new state money for doing these things. I believe they are going to do some mitigation issues, but you might want to call your local legislator regarding that also.
Agreed. Thank you, everyone.
Back to you, Dr. Moore.
Yes, ma'am. So the consent agenda, for the first part, we are seeking approval of the minutes from October 23rd, the December 2023 financial report, and the monthly food service report. Our request is to have those approved, please.
I move to approve the minutes from October 23rd, 2023 meeting, December 2023 financial report, and the monthly food service report.
And I also was able to review those, so I will second that motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Madam Chair, for letter B, we are seeking approval of the December 2023 monthly operating bills.
I reviewed those, so I move to approve the December 2023 operating bills in the amount of $6,855,186.96.
Second.
I read those as well.
All those in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Is there any other business stuff we're going to need to do?
No, ma'am, thank you very much. We are good to move forward to public comment if we have public comment this evening.
So I will open up public comment. Laura, have we had anybody sign up?
Yes, ma'am. We have 6 individuals signed up, and I will call you up 2 at a time. And the first 2 speakers are Ms. Susan Boston and Ms. Kate Allen.
Hi, my name is Susan Boston, and I gotta take a deep breath too. Orange County School Board and members and Dr. Hornig. I was, about 14 years ago, I introduced myself to a group of tennis players and became really good friends with them. One was a professor at UVA, Woodbury Forest professor, a lawyer, a local business owner, nonprofit horse volunteer, a farmer's wife, a life coach, a school board member, and many others. And we came from all walks of life, and we had one common interest, and that was playing tennis. And it didn't matter what we believed religion-wise or politics-wise. When we were playing tennis, we just were there and having a great time and enjoying that community. I come to you tonight because after my coming to you September 11th, I hadn't had any follow-ups, so I come to you again tonight, and I want to bring to your attention that that we would like, as citizens of the Orange County, to ask for use of the field house to be returned to us for inclement weather. And I needed to set a few of the records straight from the September 11th meeting, in which Ms. Page indicated that the person who was our doorman and net setter-upper, Mr. Robert Morris, quit due to his health. That was not so. We all quit because March 13th, 2020, everything shut down due to COVID. Also, to correct the record, Mr. Morris was compensated by Orange County High School. And to her last point about the safety of the children, as a pediatric nurse, for the last 28 years of my life, the safety and well-being of the children is paramount as well. We were not having any special requirements of that prior to us being no longer using the field house. So we'd like to re-ask that at this time that we could possibly look for a different solution. I know the solution was to have a third party proctor in the gym, the Parks and Rec, and apparently that didn't pan out. And it just seems to me that we could come to a solution so that we could be back in using the facilities for our health and our well-being. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Hi, my name is Kate Allen. Good evening, Dr. Harnick, Melissa, Darlene, Jack, Chelsea, and Sandy. Thank you for your time tonight to hear me. I'm here to voice my support of you, of the tremendous job each of you has taken on for the benefit of Orange County youth. You would not have endured the rigors of election campaigning, naysayers, and personal stress had each of you been unconcerned with the educational progress and protection of our students. I'm excited about the experiences you bring to Orange from other cities, states, and school systems. It will enhance the academic experience of our local students and help you guard Orange County students from the insidious forms of child grooming and trafficking so prevalent in larger systems, yet creeping quickly and quietly into small towns like ours. As a former teacher in the public and private sectors, I view the teachers of Orange County as comrades in arms. I strongly support you to follow through with classroom behavior management reform, mandating stronger consequences for classroom disruption for the protection of our students and our teachers who work very hard to prepare lessons. As a taxpayer, I look forward to your budget inquiries so our mandated contributions directly fund student education and not unnecessary admin costs. In addition, I respectfully request that you consider allowing citizens of Orange to use your indoor sports facilities in the wintertime. When you do this, adult athletes see the fruits of the labors in our school system, making them more prone to volunteerism and service, as well as showing students the importance of physical fitness as they grow older. As a musician, I hope you will strongly support the arts here. As we get older, athletics take a toll on our old joints, but singing is possible until death. It too promotes teamwork, intellectual stimulation, and creative pursuit. In closing, I would like to recall Jesus' words recorded in the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke. He said, "Whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to stumble, it would be better for him to have a heavy millstone hung around his neck and to be drowned in the depth of the sea." Scholar Louis Barbieri says that in ancient Rome, little thought was directed in those days towards children, but Jesus never overlooked them. In fact, he gave a stern warning concerning any who might place a stumbling block before one of these little ones who believed in him. The Greek word for stumble is skandalize, meaning to offend or cause to fall or to sin. I believe you will honor God by preventing our beautiful students, created in his image, from stumbling. I believe you will trust their parents and guardians to raise them on their own instead of withholding life-altering information from those who love and take financial responsibility for them. Thank you for your hard work in advance.
The next two speakers are Terry Pace and Marsha Landau.
am so grateful for our new school board we have elected in Orange County. Now we have a school board that will work hard to make sure our students are challenged with academic excellence at their level. The board will hold our administrators, teachers, students, and parents accountable. A board that will promote respect and discipline in our schools and all our extracurricular activities. The sexualization and grooming of our students will not be tolerated. Sex has no place in public schools. No more misleading our students with the lies of the woke agenda. Just teach the truth. Orange County is ready to move forward with fail-proof policies of excellence in education by promoting academics, athletics, civics, the arts, discipline, and accountability. This enables our students to have successful futures. I thank you for your service and look forward to the results.
I love looking up there and seeing you. We worked really hard for this. You owe your seats to the voters who believed in your promises to return our schools to traditional education. And because you recognize the responsibility to raise children belongs to parents, not government schools. You defeated the woke mob, and rather than have teachers committed to teaching children how to think, instead they worked to indoctrinate in CRT, DEI, and were certain without any degrees in psychology, they felt entitled to act as sexual counselors, encouraged the teenage transgender fad, and were furious when told there will be no more secrecy. All will be disclosed to parents. No longer will topics of sexual deviancy invade our classrooms. No longer will school libraries promote pornography. The subjects taught will be appropriate, and sexual discussions will again be the prerogative of parents, or maybe therapists, but there will finally be consequences for the social activists disguised as teachers. No longer can they say with impunity, "Don't tell your parents." I hope you remove Orange County from the School Board Association, which takes its marching orders from the teachers union. And when your job gets rough, remember you have not only the responsibility to do the right thing, but you have the mandate the voting majority gave you. You'll make us proud. God bless you.
And the final two speakers are Zach Burkett and DJ Anglin.
A decade ago, who would have believed that we would be in the most divisive times in America and the school boards would be the tip of the spear? I congratulate every one of you. I am amazed that you were willing to take on the challenge. I salute your courage, and in a year I'd like to ask you about your intelligence. My one experience with Orange County schools was during the COVID internet thing. I homeschooled a young friend. I was amazed at her lack of some of the simple basics, reading, history. She was a good student, learned it fast, or actually got pointed in the right direction and was willing to teach herself the basics. And I hope a big emphasis of the future will be, let's go back to basics, teach our kids how to think, and then trust them to take care of us as we get older. Thank you very much.
Well, Good evening, Orange County School Board. It's nice to see a whole set of new faces up there. And a lot of what's occurring over the last 18 months and 2 years has changed. And it's long been needed. And I'm grateful to see that. Changes needed to occur in Orange County with the school system and with other things has been coming. The problem is the hardest thing for people to accept is things do need to change. And sometimes we get so far away from the basics and the core of what we started out to do, it's hard to change and get back. You know, as a new school board, y'all have the opportunity to evaluate the effectiveness of things. Don't just approve new programs. Follow up with those programs. Find out where they're at 18 months, 24 months from now. Stay on them. Make sure they continue to work. What works, keep going. What isn't working, reallocate the resources to the next project, but don't be afraid to walk away from things that fail. It's okay. We don't have to keep them going just to keep them going. You're going to get a lot of grief in this room over the next terms of your elections. A lot of grief. There'll be a lot of squeaky wheels screaming and hollering at you, speaking out against you. More than likely, I will be up here talking about something you said or did that I did not approve of. But more importantly, you need to know that when you're trying to do the right things for the right reasons, especially when no one else is looking, we support you. Orange County's community has your back when you're doing the right thing for the right reasons. And most importantly, the right thing is getting back to the core of educating our children. Politics have no place in it, but our school systems have been infiltrated with political agendas, and it needs to stop. And you guys are in a position to start making that change. I just want you to know we're here for you, just like we expect you to be there for us. Those of you who were recently elected, we got you here. Now you have a heck of a mountain to climb. But we know you can do it. But we're not going to walk away. We're going to keep watching. We're going to keep paying attention. We are here. All right? That's all I wanted to express. Welcome, and thank you for the challenge you've decided to accept. God bless you all.
Ms. Byron, is there any other speakers?
No, ma'am, not at this time.
So at this time, I will close public comment. Ms. Harrington, can you read closed session certification?
Pursuant to 2.2-3711A of the Code of Virginia, the Orange County School Board will convene a closed meeting for the following: discussion of personnel and the performance of a division employee as authorized by Section 2.2-3711A1 of the Code of Virginia. 4, resignation, termination, transfer, employment, salary adjustment, and retirement of employees. Second, discussion of pupil personnel as authorized by Section 2.2-3711A2 for early admission, waiver of compulsory attendance, out of county, out of district requests, and student discipline. And consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by the school board regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel, as authorized by Section 2.2-3711A8 of the Code of Virginia.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 We are in closed session. a motion to, reconvene?
Yes, ma'am. Motion, whereas the Orange County School Board has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas 2.2-3712D of the Code of Virginia requires certification by this school board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore be it resolved that the Orange County School Board hereby certifies that, to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered.
Closed session certification?
We need a second.
Oh, ma'am, sorry.
That's okay.
Second.
All those in favor?
Nope, I'll do a roll
Oh, I'm
call.
sorry. That was roll call. She told me before I went in.
Mrs. Anderson,
Aye.
Mrs. Dawson,
Aye.
Ms. Harrington,
Aye.
Mrs. Quintern. Aye. Mr. Rickett.
Aye.
Madam Chair, the clerk certifies the vote as follows: 5 yes votes and no votes.
Closed session certification? That was the roll call vote, sorry. Deposition of personnel actions, Dr. Hornick?
Yes, ma'am, we request approval of the personnel actions as presented in closed session.
And that would be relative, I'd like to make a motion to approve the PP 2024-18.
Second.
Oh, wait,
The personnel first.
personnel.
Yeah,
first.
just, yeah, so just to approve personnel.
Okay, we are requesting approval. Excuse me. Recommended approval of the personnel agenda to include retirement, rescind retirement, resignation, employment, salary adjustment, transfer and termination, and coaching appointments. PP 2024-18.
That was on the last one. That must be so. May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Deposition of pupil personnel actions, Dr. Hornick?
Yes, ma'am, recommend approval of pupil personnel actions, number PP 2024-18.
I make a motion to approve pupil personnel actions as presented in closed session. Thank you.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on to board member comments and questions. Is there any additional items that the board would like to bring up?
Madam Chair, I was just wondering, if this would be the appropriate time to talk about agenda items going forward, or if that's something that happens at a different time.
I don't see why not.
Okay, I would like to make a motion, or I'd like to, I'm not making motions, but I was just wondering if we can bring back an item to discuss, the legislative, research committee that I had mentioned earlier, that looking at the different options available to the SBA, that Chelsea and I spoke about. Is that?
So the renaming of the committee, you want to bring back to?
Not so much the renaming, but, the research to identify the different options that are available to us and present that information back to the board before the June timeframe.
Okay, so creating.
So you're talking about options for other boards,
Yes, options to
councils.
either,
Alternatives to the VSBA.
alternatives or additions to the VSBA,
Okay,
yes.
I understand, thank you.
So that would be something that we could just add to the agenda as far as, a date, pick a date when we would bring that back up in session, or do we need to have a particular, do we need to table it and continue on and then pick a date, or?
Well, so, as far as, I'll take broadly the question first, as far as building the agenda. So, Mrs. Anderson in particular, and then Ms. Dawson as vice chair, if Ms. Anderson is unable to, we work collaboratively with Ms. Byron and myself to craft the agenda. And so if there are agenda items you would like to be put on at a particular time, how we've been doing is generally, it just email to, to our group, hey, I would like to, add this particular item for the January 29th work session, and we just make sure that that gets on that at that particular time. So as far as when that comes about, I think when you guys are done with your research and you're ready to present, it's simply, hey, just want to let you know we're ready to have this on at the next meeting, and then we can decide if it sounds like it would probably be a work session item, but if it's not timely and we need to put it onto a regular meeting, that's no problem. We would just work out the dates at that particular time as it's getting close to that time that you want to report out, so that's no problem.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
I do have one, Madam Chair.
Sandy was not.
Oh, okay.
My second item was that, again, probably the same answer, but I wanna make sure that we, as a board, bring back and look at the framework for decisions that, I had suggested we look at relative to ensuring that when we make decisions, we look at what is in the best educational interests, what fits within our strategic planning, our strategic plan, et cetera. I was hoping we could have maybe a more robust conversation about that and get everybody's opinion.
Could we put that on the next agenda? We can just upload that matrix up on the agenda and then we can talk about it at the next school board meeting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, I just wanted to take a public opportunity to say thank you to Dr. Hornick and all of the administrative team here. When the new board was elected and he called me and he said, I have no idea how to do this. This is my first go round with the new board, and Dr. Hornick, you've just been really outstanding at making all of us feel like part of the team, giving us the ropes, and Dr. Wolfrey and Mrs. Ayler, Dr. Ayler, I forget, Mrs. Ayler, and everybody who's already left, but it's Mr. Sarver, everyone, it's really been a wonderful experience, and I'm so thankful. Just today, I messaged Dr. Hornick and he's on it. I mean, he calls me within 15 minutes and this is the answer to that question. So, we have a great team here and I'm very excited to be a part of it. So, thank you.
Thank you, that's awesome.
Any other comments or questions?
Madam Chair, I would like to propose a motion that the school board draft up a letter formally requesting use of the public safety building for future meetings. And hopefully we could get that drafted and prepared for the next work session. And if there's a second, I can kind of explain further the reasoning or the development of that.
I'll second that.
Well, I don't wanna draft a letter and when we haven't even discussed, I mean, we just assigned committees today, for CTE and CIP, and then we're gonna do a formal requisition to move without having a plan for, what this space is. Isn't it the cart before the horse a little bit?
No, I think what Chelsea's saying that we held our meetings, at the public safety building.
But that's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I misunderstood.
Let me restate, we just assigned.
Darlene did a second.
Okay, sorry, I did not hear.
We just assigned committees, so everyone's got their committee assignments. So some of the committee assignments will discuss CIP and CTE, correct?
Correct.
Everybody's with me so far. So now we're gonna request from the county to move our meeting without a plan for this space. Isn't that the cart before the horse? Shouldn't we at least have one meeting and start to discuss what CTE looks like moving forward instead of just jumping into it? Or we just wanna leave this space vacant?
I think at this point,
So
prior to any
my
conversation.
thoughts behind putting this move forward is, so that way, if we don't have to use the facilities, but if we're allowed to, it'd be nice to know that, and we can start that process. I don't have any immediate plans for the school board room. And I don't know that that necessarily is on the table. The motion is just to draft a letter to see if they would use it for the school board meetings. But that letter, I mean, we can vote on that and, you know, table moving the meeting. That wouldn't be the motion. It's not to move to the public safety building. It's just to request permission if we are allowed to use their facilities, and that would go before the board of supervisors. They would have to vote on that. It would come back to us, and then we would discuss logistics about movement, the usage of the meeting room, our meeting room, etc.
I have no problem moving the meeting if we need this space for education, none whatsoever. If we're not gonna use this space for education and we're gonna leave it vacant just to move to another building, I don't see the point of that. We are asking already a great deal from our staff. They're here, I see 3 of them left. They're here at 8:45, and now we're gonna ask them to go away from where their offices are down the street. Again, I completely 5 miles, maybe tops. But, you know, if I need Dr. Wolfrey to answer a question, she could easily get to it, and now we're gonna move her to a different, I don't mean to use you as an example, I apologize. Not trying to put you on the spot. But I don't have a problem having a discussion. I just think, we need to do a little bit more due diligence about what CTE looks like in the future. If you would like to draft a letter, draft a letter.
I would suggest that we do bring this back to a work session, we discuss further the letter, and we also have staff give us a little idea of what the impact to them would be to move over there, and also what we may be considering, what the division superintendent, CIP, CTE may be considering for use of this space.
Okay, so
Sorry, Melissa.
Yeah, go ahead.
It seems to me that the CTE question is a separate question.
That's what I was thinking too, it's really not.
From where
Yeah.
the board meetings will be held. So maybe in your mind, Jack, that they're linked together in one, and I suppose there is some linkage there, but I don't think that's the intent of at least just drafting the letter to find out if, you know, it's available there, they approve it there, and then from there, we can have this discussion about.
Sure. Using Sandy's matrix, how does moving our meeting benefit education?
Well, essentially, we could use that space and outfit it for education, but we don't know that unless there is the opening, you know?
Which is more of my point of why I bring up
But we have to
CTE.
know that the option is available to us.
Absolutely.
By crafting this letter.
That's, I think we already know the answer to that question.
But it
But
needs
if
to
we
be
would like to,
formalized.
if we would like to draft a letter, then I think we should, but I would like us to make sure we're, you know, keeping our, you know, eye on the ball, I guess, per se.
Understood.
So Chelsea, would you like to restate the motion?
Yeah, so the motion would be for the school board to draft a letter requesting the board of supervisors permission to use their facilities for our school board meetings.
May I ask a point of clarification? Are we doing action items at this point, or are we just talking about what we would like to put forward for another meeting?
So it would be a draft, and then we would have to present it at the next meeting, then that would have to be approved. Then it would get sent out to the board of supervisors.
No, what I'm saying is, this is not an action item on our agenda, so does this really have to go through that formal process, or do we just have this conversation and the chair and the vice chair follow up with the superintendent to put these things on an agenda? If we need to give any feedback, that's when we do it. I'm just not quite sure that this is agendized.
Well, and I know in past, we've been able to bring up, information during the board members' comments and questions. We've been able to bring in motions at that point as well. Is there any reasoning why we couldn't bring a motion in the public comments?
I was just talking to Lauren.
Oh, she's there.
She is.
motion can't be put on the table, it's just not good practice if it's not already on the agenda.
So I would suggest, just again, in the transparency aspect, and to make sure that we have it properly agendized, so this is just a recommendation, but that we all, thumbs up, agree that this should go on the next agenda, and that we would love for you guys to work together to make that happen.
So putting together a letter, will basically be just, we'll put together a letter and then we'll present that the next week. How's that? Does that work for everybody?
Is that something you all are asking me / us to assist with, or are you doing that as a
I can
group?
put something together and then you can get Laura to look
Sure.
over it yourself and you can give me some recommendations.
No problem.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Well, the motion's on the table, so we have to do something with that. We have to either,
Motion dies for lack.
That's,
Motion dies for lack of a second.
No, it was second.
yeah.
Oh, it was.
Darlene's.
Disregard.
So do we need to, table till the following, work session? Can we do that?
Yes.
well, I guess I'll offer a subsidiary motion then, or a substitute motion. I move that Melissa and Darlene prepare a letter for the school board to review and discuss at the following work session, at the last Monday in January.
Do I have a second?
I guess that's me again. I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
I'm gonna abstain just because it's not an agenda. Otherwise, split.
Good. If there are no other comments or questions, I hereby adjourn this meeting.